Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Naisargi and in today's video we are going to learn about biosafety levels or biohazard safety levels. So as we discussed in my previous video, I am hoping that now you all might be having quite some clarity regarding good laboratory practices and how to work ethically in a biology laboratory. In continuation with that video, today we will be talking about various biosafety levels as well as their significance while working in a biology laboratory. So, what are biosafety levels? Usually in a biology laboratory, we often work with living systems. It can be mice, rats, rabbits or any other laboratory animal. It can also be animal cells, plant cells, animal or plant tissues, bacteria or viruses. Specifically, when we are working with prokaryotic or eukaryotic organisms, there are certain protocols which we need to follow in order to ensure our safety as well as the safety of the environment, as well as to ensure the authenticity and the quality of your experimental work. For that, we have to work in specific biosafety levels. Now, these biosafety levels, they are defined by CDC, that is the Center for Disease Control, and they are classified into biosafety level 1, biosafety level 2, 3 and 4. The biosafety level in which we will be working will depend upon the type of work that we are doing. Now let's dig a bit deeper into each of these biosafety levels. Biosafety level 1 is the most basic biosafety level, providing the least protection to the personnel, and as the biosafety level increases, the levels of protection they also increase, and so biosafety level 4 provides the maximum amount of protection to the working personnel. What is biosafety level 1? BSL 1 is quite similar to the first line of defense of our body. So BSL 1, what it includes, the protective gear that we wear, that is the lab coat, the shoes, eye cover, the mask, the cap, everything. The example of BSL 1 setups include fume hoods, laminar air flows, RNA isolation hoods, or suppose when you're working in between the two burners to handle the microorganisms, every of these things, they fall under BSL 1. To ensure the sterility of your working environment while using BSL 1, you have to clean your working space using an alcohol and tissue before and after you work. This will ensure optimum sterility in your working space. A laminar airflow hood has horizontal flow of air. So the mechanism is that the air passes through HEPA filters and then it comes towards the user so that the work environment maintains the sterility, but at the same time the safety of the personnel is not ensured. So for that, when we use a laminar airflow, we have to make sure that we use a burner on one side. So we work between the burner and the flow so that the working personnel is ensured the safety. These laminar airflows we often use to manipulate microbial cultures which are not pathogenic or are minimally pathogenic. Second is the fume hood, which we generally use to do the experiments which involve the use of chemicals which can produce toxic gases. So the working principle of a basic fume hood is that the air comes from the front side, that is from the side of the working personnel, and it goes towards upward side where there is a HEPA filter, and from there the fumes are captured and the air is vented out. Another example of a BSL 1 facility is class 1 biosafety cabinet, which is generally used to isolate DNA and RNA in the labs, in which there is no airflow as such. It is just a sterile desk which you clean with alcohol. There is a UV light provided by which you can do surface sterilization, and it provides a sterile environment for the isolation of your DNA, your RNA or your protein. Now suppose if you do not have a laminar airflow hood in your lab but you wish to manipulate your microbial cultures, it's okay. Working in between two Bunsen burners provides nearly equal stability as in a laminar airflow hood. It is also a very good example of a BSL-1 facility which is normally used in basic biology labs in high schools or in graduate colleges. Now you guys, you have to make sure that you can use BSL-1 facility only to handle the microorganisms which are non-pathogenic, because it provides very less protection to the working personnel. So if you wish to handle pathogenic organisms, you have to use the next BSL facility, which is the BSL-2 facility. In addition to the barriers that we talked in BSL-1 facility, BSL-2 facility has some more protective barriers between the working personnel and the working environment. It ensures more protection than BSL-1. Unlike the BSL-1 facility, BSL-2 facility requires a separate lab setup for the manipulation of the cultures involved. This separate lab has self-closing doors, an exhaust fan, proper UV lights in the entire room for surface sterilization, the proper sink to wash hands before and after the usage of the room, as well as proper biosafety cabinets to manipulate the cultures. So in BSL-2, we often use class 2 biosafety cabinets, which are a bit different from the previously discussed class 1 biosafety cabinets. Class 2 biosafety cabinets, they have a vertical airflow, which is unlike the laminar airflow hood in which there is the horizontal airflow towards the working personnel. On the upper side, there are HEPA filters through which the air passes and becomes sterile and then circulates inside the cabinet, making the work environment sterile, and this does not pose any harm to the working personnel as well. These cabinets are used to manipulate pathogenic organisms, eukaryotic cells, etc. So now, how do you sterilize these biosafety cabinets? How do you ensure that your biosafety cabinets work efficiently? Before and after every use, you need to switch on the UV lamp provided inside these biosafety cabinets for its surface sterilization. Also, one point which generally a lot of people miss: the UV light in the biosafety cabinets or in the BSL-2 facility labs should always be switched on in the absence of visible light. This is because the microorganisms reverse the damage caused by UV in the presence of visible light in a process known as photoreactivation. So, if you are intending to kill the microorganisms in these facilities, it is of no use if you switch on the UV light in the presence of visible light. So please make sure you take care of this fact. Another way of sterilizing the BSL-2 facility is the regular fumigation of these rooms and cabinets, which should be carried out according to its usage, but ideally it should be done every 15 to 20 days. This will ensure that all the fungal spores as well as the alcohol and UV resistant microorganisms get killed. I'll leave the protocol of the fumigation in the description below for your reference, and you can check it out as and when needed. And the cleaning of these room surfaces as well as the biosafety cabinet surfaces with alcohol and tissue before and after use is an unsaid mandatory thing. You should not think twice before doing it. It's a blind thing. You have to go in, you have to do it before you start any experiment. The next facility is the BSL-3 facility, which provides even more protection than the BSL-2 facility. This biosafety level is generally used in virology labs, in which you have to work with virus cultures or even lethal pathogens. Now, the BSL-3 lab is even more stringent than the BSL-2 lab. Unlike BSL-2 facility, in the BSL-3 facility there are two doors before you go inside the lab. The two doors open in different directions and they are self-closing. The passage leading to the inside of the laboratory is often saturated with alcohol vapors, so that even if there are any microbes entering the room, they will be destroyed and your work will not be compromised. In BSL-3, along with the protective gears that you wear in BSL-1 and 2, you have to wear a full protective kit, which also is known as the PPE kit or the personal protective equipment, to ensure that any of your body part is not coming in contact with the working environment. You have to ensure that you do not get any cuts or bruises while working in this laboratory. Next is the BSL facility 4 or biosafety level 4. This is the level providing the maximum level of protection to the personnel, and this facility is generally used to manipulate the cultures involving lethal viruses or extremely rare or exotic pathogens or drug resistant pathogens, which if comes in contact with the human can prove to be extremely lethal. The BSL 4 facility labs are extremely isolated. Generally they are in a separate building than the routine biology laboratory, and they have special supply of air as well as special exhaust facility. The entry is restricted in these kinds of labs, and the personnel that work in these labs, they are supposed to change their clothes before they enter in the lab as well as after they come out of the lab. They also need to shower after every use of this lab. The entire body should be covered with a positive pressure suit in which the air supply is also made, which is even more protective than what we wear in a BSL 3 facility. And it is needless to say that whatever BSL facility you are working in, you have to use only and only sterile components that are either autoclaved or filtered so that maximum sterility is ensured. As discussed in our previous video, it is also mandatory that you wash your hands before as well as after the usage of any of these BSL facilities. So that is all for today's video, you guys. Please maintain your as well as the environmental safety while you're working in a biology, chemistry or any other laboratory. In the next video, I'll be discussing with you all the protocols for the disposal of biohazardous wastes. In case you have any doubts regarding today's topic, please feel free to mention in the comment section below. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can, and I'll soon see you with my next video. Bye bye guys.